All right, it's 1:26, I guess. So we'll go ahead and start, and let's keep this pretty informal, casual. I'm kind of up here just to change this, and I have to switch between the PowerPoint and a couple different things. But let me start by just saying, please feel free to break in anytime, ask questions. I do have kind of an activity at the end, so there'll be some participation. My name is Sherry Grosso. I'm Associate Director of Distributed Learning here at the CTE, and I am also faculty. I teach business classes, both in class and online, and this is actually my 9th semester of teaching online. And most of my onlines are under 40, so that would definitely be my goal. We were talking about really big onlines. So if you would, just go around and introduce yourselves. I know some of us know each other, but and tell me what you hope to learn from this, because you know, I appreciate you coming out on a beautiful Friday afternoon, so I want to make this as valuable as possible. So. Okay.
Looking at the rubric, Quality Matters, whole theory. Unfortunately, I don't know if you know about it. And I've spent 17 years in this space, so it's kind of going back to something I've done, but thought I wasn't anymore.
I'm Carol Scott. I'm in Disabled Counselors Management. I've been in adjunct for about 6 years, but now I'm a PhD student practicing at a late age.
Never too late. Never too late.
You don't look late.
And so since there's so many online opportunities out there, I thought I was going to find out and come into jobs in here eventually. So I wanted to find out.
Okay. Are you? Cool.
I'm Tracy Leonard. I work in South Carolina College of Pharmacy. It is a learning program between European the university got in Charleston, and now we have added community hospital system, and we utilize video conferencing for students with their classes. That's really about 95% of the classes are video conferencing. We have started an online class. Don't know exactly how that has gone with that, but this is the first one. Last spring was the first time we had an online class.
Was that offered on Blackboard, the online class?
I'm not, yeah, it was.
Okay. Okay. All right. Hey.
Hello?
Oui, merci.
I'm Elaine, and I'm an assistant on the Union Campus, which is the regional campus. Most of the lab manager and sometimes technology. And currently I'm implementing our catalog with an online chemistry course for non-science major. As we're going back to Carolina, I think it's very important from people, not everybody's chemistry major, I can fully understand. But everybody needs a full credit hour in the lab on their curriculum for any degree now, and I thought that would be a good one to offer. It seems so far it's going well, and almost totally approved.
Yes.
And,
Yes. That's the process.
So it should be approved next week, officially. And so I want to make sure I get everything all the tools, because I'm going to have to get on that for the spring semester at the soonest. So.
Right. And no, I was going to say, were you working with an instructional designer, or did you get one of the grants, or did you do this all on your own?
I did it all on my own.
Okay.
When I asked if I could apply for the grant, they told me it's either or. Like, it's either I apply for the grant and then it's going to take longer for me to do it, or I can apply and see if it's accepted right away, but then I have to do the grant. And I think the students need that
Okay.
ASAP because they launched it that you call on the phone.
Right.
And they don't have any real science or major online, and I think it's needed. So.
Okay. Good.
Will you be including any labs?
Absolutely.
On doing online parts?
It's so I'm not really. I mean, I think those online labs are interesting because it's trying to figure to there. But it's I'm working with a company that makes the lab. They make a box and you do it in your kitchen kind of
Huh.
thing. So
Neat. Yeah.
It's actually fun because I think hands-on incubated
Yeah.
and the lab has to be hands-on.
Yeah.
That's
I like that. I like that. Right.
And at your own time, you don't have to drive over there to
Sure.
campus or all that.
Well, that's interesting because in Sumter, Pearl,
Absolutely.
and she did a blended model because she wanted them to come to campus for a lab. This was for biology, but I think that's neat.
Science
Yeah.
major. And so I
That's-
understand for science.
Well, yes and no. I mean, a lot of people take that who aren't science majors. They take that. I think so. Yes, I think so. But, interesting. All right, thank you. That helps because what this is all about, this rubric, comes from Quality Matters, and this is the website qmprogram.org. USC has adopted or become a subscriber to Quality Matters. And I have a couple other handouts for you in just a second, but I just want to kind of give you a real short overview of what all this is, because there's several operations out there, and the Distributed Learning Committee looked at a lot of this and finally decided on adopting Quality Matters, and like I said, USC is one of the subscribers, okay? And they like to tell everyone it's a three-part process. There's their rubric, there's peer review, which is the actual review of courses, and then they have professional development. And I and our two instructional designers here, and Tina Cruz and Renee Schaefer, have been through some of the training, and you can do the training. It's not free, but if your unit pays for it. Then if you're a faculty or adjunct, you can get certified to be a course reviewer. And so I am, and Tina Cruz and Renee Schaefer are all certified now to review courses. But what that does is just helps you kind of go through their process and the rubric. So just briefly, what it all is, it started with a grant in Maryland, this company called Maryland Online, and they got together to look at quality assurance in online courses. That was in 2003, and then in 2007, they continued and became a not-for-profit, and have continued their growth in this field. And it's a subscription-based service. Like I said, USC is a subscriber. You renew it annually. And this is just a map of the states who have either subscribers or they have a whole consortium. So as you can see, they have a lot of coverage. Okay, so a lot of universities are using Quality Matters as the, I guess, kind of the goal in developing quality courses. And they have several principles that they said they're based on. The first is continuous, meaning that you look at a course and you do a peer review of it. The reviewers provide feedback, and they provide feedback, good and some suggestions if there are areas for improvement. And if you need revision, then you would revise the course, and if it meets the expectations, then it can get recognized as a peer-reviewed course. Now, we have not done any course reviews, okay? So right now, we're just looking at Quality Matters as looking at their rubric and how that can help us develop courses, okay? Now, that's not to say that might not happen in the future, but right now, we're not actually doing this review piece, but we are using their materials and their rubrics. Okay, So again, it's continuous in that you want to keep improving your course. Once it is improved, you want to look at it every so often. So that's one of their principles. The next is that this process is centered on research. They really have done a lot of research, and on their website and some of the materials we have, they have studies that support a lot of the components of the rubric. They also are very focused on the students in that they want people to deliver courses that are student focused and the student has a good chance of succeeding and staying in the course. And then of course quality, and they use this 85% level, and I'm going to explain that in just a second. But basically the idea is each course doesn't have to be perfect, but they're going for this 85% kind of a standard. And if a course goes through the review process, the intent is not that it's judgmental, okay? And I think, just like anybody else, if I heard that, oh, you're going to get your course reviewed, to me it was, oh no, what are they going to tell me is wrong? But that's not the idea. It really is kind of faculty driven. It's a group of your peers and you're trying to help each other improve. So it really is not judgmental. It's collaborative in that there's a team of 3 people. And to be a reviewer, you have to, again, be either faculty or adjunct or something like that, and you have to have taught within the last 18 months online. You have to go through their training. You have a subject matter expert on the team, so theoretically there's somebody there who can look at the content as well as the structure of the course. And each reviewer develops their own recommendations, and then it's all kind of put together to see what the course looks like. But again, this is if you went through the whole review process, which we have not done yet, but I wanted to explain the process because, again, that's what the rubric is used. That's the main tool in the process. The rubric was updated in 2011, and I'm going to give you a copy of that. There are 8 general review standards, they're called, and then 41 specific review standards. Okay, so it's pretty detailed in what it covers. And the general standards, let me go ahead and pass these out to you. Even in color. Look at this, in color. So if you would just take one and pass it. The general standards are on the first page, and then we'll get to the specifics in just a second. So you have the course overview, and that's first because it's really important that the student sees the overview and understands the design of the course and how it's set up, okay? And then learning objectives, that would be the second one. Then we look at assessment and measurement, the instructional materials, learner engagement, course technology, and learner support and accessibility, okay? So those are the 8 general standards. And then on the second page there, if you look at it, each one of the general standards is supported by what they call specific standards. And they vary in number. The first one has 8 specific standards, and that's the most that any of these have. And then over there on the side, you can see that each of the specific standards is given a point value from 3 or 2 or 1, okay? So each one of those standards gets a point value. The ones that have 3 are what they call essential, okay? So they have to be met in order for the course to be satisfactory, I guess you could say. So you have to meet all 21 of those essential standards, and you can tell which ones they are because they're the ones with the 3. Okay?
Is that where you get those 85?
Yes, part of it, yes. Yeah, it's a 2-part number, so I'll show you in just a second. There are 12 of the very important standards, and they get 2 points each. and then 8 important standards that get 1 point each. So if you added all that up, it would add up to 95. Okay, if you got all the points for every one of those specific standards, you would get 95 points. So you have to get 85% of that, which would be 81. Okay, so that's one part of that 85%. All right. The other part is that when you look at each specific standard, you have to gauge, well, does it really meet it? It doesn't have to meet it 100% of the time, 85% of the time, and I have an example for that. The other thing is the way this rubric works. It's a little bit different than I think some of us are used to thinking of rubrics. When these reviewers look at these standards, again, there's 3 reviewers. They don't have to agree, all right? And the way the points are awarded is that if you decide the course meets that standard, you give it all of the points, okay? It's not, well, it sort of meets it, so I'll give it 1 out of 3. If you decide that it meets that specific standard, then you give it all 3 points or 2 points or 1 point, whatever it is. If you don't think it met that standard, it gets 0 points for that standard. Okay, does that make sense? So again, it's a little bit different than I think some of us have thought of rubrics. So here's an example. This course, chemistry, I knew you were coming, no, might have 15 learning objectives, okay? And when you look at those, you might decide, well, 2 of them are not really measurable, okay? Maybe you need to rephrase the verb, get an action verb, something that would be measurable, okay? But the other 13 are. So standard 2.1, if you read it, and it says, the course learning objectives describe outcomes that are measurable, okay? So when you look at that specific standard, you need to find evidence in the course that it's being met, so you go to the learning objectives, obviously, and you decide that, well, most of them, but 2, not really. But again, you have to apply that 85%, okay? Meaning, what is 13 out of 15? I guess that's 85%, or in that neighborhood. So you would probably decide that, yes, the learning objectives meet standard 2.1. So for you, you would give it all 3 points for that, okay? So that's at 85%. You have to have a total points, 85% of the 95. And then when you're looking at each of these, you kind of have to make a judgment call. They don't have to be perfect, and that's the idea, that each thing does not have to be perfect, but you want to be sure that you're meeting the standards, okay? Then you need to write suggestions and recommendations, and it's really a good thing to write it whether you meet the standards or not. Okay, so here's an example how this all works. Again, there are 21 of the essential standards, and they're 3 points each, so that would give you 63. Then 12 very important, 8 important. So that's where that 95 comes from, and the 41 specific standards. And this might be an example of how some of these would go through the review process, okay? Look at standard 1.1. On the team, 2 people said yes, I saw evidence of that standard. 1 said no, but they go with majority rules, okay? That's why there's 3 reviewers. So if 2 people said yes, it met the standard, then it gets all 3 points for that standard, okay? But look at 3.4 there. 1 person said, yes, I found enough evidence, I believe that's met. 2 people said, not really, okay? So in that case, it would get 0 points for that standard, okay? Make sense? And et cetera. That's how you work it for each one. So again, there are 41 of those specific standards, so you go through this for each of the 41. And then when you're finished, or the person who collects and puts this all together, there's one person called the master reviewer. Anyway, first of all, you have to have met all of the essential ones that are worth 3 points, okay? If there's one of those that you didn't meet, then you have to give recommendations and say, well, we need to do some revisions before we can really say this is good to go. All right? And then the other thing is, when you total up all the others, they have to come back to that number. Yeah, exactly. Good. All right, so again, I wanted to go through that a little bit because when we think of rubric, I think if we've used them, a lot of times we'll say, well, you know, if it's excellent, you get 4 points. If it's not so good, you get 3, et cetera, et cetera. And this is set up a little bit differently. Each thing is already given a point value, but if you say that you found evidence of meeting that, then it gets all the points. Okay? So that is just a brief overview of the way the scoring works. And again, this is the general standards which you have, and then these are the ones that really where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, okay? And they're fairly specific. However, they're written so that you do have flexibility when you design your course. You know, it says it doesn't say you can't have a multiple choice test. All right. What's it say? The types of assessment selected measure the stated learning objectives. Okay. So I think as faculty, when we're thinking about developing these courses, you know, this gives you freedom. Okay. You can still develop the course the way you want to, but you do need to keep these things in mind. Okay. So the other handout that you have, which looks like, where did I put it? This one. Okay, it should be under your yellow sheets. All right. These are screenshots taken from kind of well, it's a course developed by one of our designers. And it's a real course, but what we've kind of done is taken pieces from it to use as some examples. And we are going to take a look at this and see if we can decide which objectives are being met by these things. And the reason is I want to show you why these courses are looking the way they are. But before we do that, let me just stop right here and see if you have questions so far, because I know it kind of went through a lot quickly. No? Yes. Yes. And again, it's based on looking at the whole course, so it's very holistic. Okay, and you know, finding evidence, and that's after going through this training. Okay, and in the training, you do sample reviews and look at some courses that are not so good and some that are. So I would say that, you know, the training is pretty good and gives you a lot of experience in looking at differences and also in how to write the recommendations to help the course developer change some things. Okay? Yeah.
Ideally, we're not under Quality Matters yet at USC.
Right.
Ideally, you can take it and assess your own course.
Exactly.
And that's kind of, because we think, you know, kind of touch and go. Sharon and I work together on it.
Yes.
We think we're headed this direction at USC.
Right.
Aren't these sites going through that? Well, at one point we did. No, there's a distributed learning committee and a distributed learning initiative tied to back to Carolina and all that stuff.
Right.
At some point, any time now, something's going to be rolled out, and it's going to be something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Something like
Right.
that. So USC, this distributed learning committee kind of adopted,
Subscribe to, yes.
But we're not under a Quality Matters umbrella yet, so we're not doing peer reviews yet.
No.
But so ideally, it's a good thing to do for your own good. Well, we don't do it online. We're reviewing it in person. Do what? The peer review. Oh, right. Yeah, but in the for online courses, there's no
Right.
following that. And so this is what they subscribe to and kind of, I think what we were thinking and talking about that is, if the more people that start looking at their own courses this way, once it goes under peer review, the better.
Right.
I think that's great because the way schools actually stop building.
And that's the idea. That's the way we've been using it, because this was back in the spring, I guess, when we first started looking at this. Yeah. And what we've done is come up with these courses, and the designers trying to look at them in terms of, well, I guess we've looked at it more as best practices. Okay, we have not looked at this in terms of, we're going to go review and judge all these courses. We've looked at this is a set of best practices that we can use, and how do we implement them. So we might.
Well,
Not we.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Yes.
some of it's been void. I mean, I say I've worked in distance education for 17 years. It's been void for 17 years as long as I've been here.
Right.
We haven't had anything to go by, so everybody kind of went by their own thing, and, sometimes for better or worse.
Right.
And so at least there's some good standards here. If you want a good course, you can have one if you kind of...
Right. And again, there is flexibility in how you meet these too. Right now we're not being prescriptive or anything like that. We're just
But
at the moment, yeah.
Currently there are no students on that panel, because it'd be nice to have a panel here for students. Is this actually something that they would like to have, or?
There's no students on the committee. That's true. That I don't think so. Yeah, it is. It is, because we do have students who are certainly taking online classes a lot, and through the Back to Carolina, and a lot in yours. Right. And in your college, Tina Cruz has done all this as well. She kind of started it, but right. That's true.
Something that's consistent, even if the course gets passed.
Right.
Especially it's going to be consistent between courses.
Hopefully, yes.
So for the students, it's easier, they know what to expect. They go on Blackboard and they're going to expect
Exactly.
that.
And there's flexibility in it so they don't look the same.
Right.
But making sense, yeah.
Right. And that's really the goal. That's why, we were excited to have something to use, because there's so much out there. I mean, if you start looking for best practices, which is what I spent a lot of time on, and we did, there is so much. So at least this kind of narrows it down. Yeah, you want to make sure. Exactly. So. Right, and that's true.
I think even Tina would say, oh, look at that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's where to start. Absolutely. So, we have also kind of gone along with, or agreed to, or not, again, not prescriptive, but when you offer these in Blackboard, which again, we're offering everything in Blackboard. Let me say that now, and I actually like Blackboard. Changing your menu to make it more of a modular structure, okay? Because the default menu in Blackboard is always, course documents and things like that. Assignments, right. So the first thing is you don't have to keep that, okay? And it's not always the best way to go. So we like this modular thing, and I can tell you from my own experience, because again, I've been doing online classes for a while now. When I did my first one, I thought, I'll be really, really flexible, and just let them do stuff whenever. And that was not good, because students tend to, what do you think? Wait till the last minute, exactly. And that, if you just care about getting the work done, that's okay. But what I want, and I continue to work towards, is a course that at least tries to simulate interaction and engagement, and they can't be in the classroom, but at least we can try to work towards more of that model. So as you can see, we have weekly modules, okay, weekly, and checklists. We do have announcements, but a lot of group discussion and the grades, sending emails. So again, you can structure your menu, but the idea is to make it so that it's easy to navigate. So everybody find which objective that would be. I'll give you a hint. It's in the 6s. Yeah, I know. When you start, once you get used to this. Aisha was funny. One of our designers went to their conference, and she said the people there have been using this so long, they were talking about, oh, that's 7.1, oh, 6.2, that kind of thing. We're not there yet. 6.3, exactly. So what I intended for us to do, just to have a little bit of practice with this and thinking about it, just write 6.3 next to this, because what's that telling you is that the idea of a module is good because it's helping the navigation, and that students know what to look for and where to go. Okay. So again, these are just screenshots, and it's not the whole course by any means. It's just sections of it. But of course, you start with an announcement, and 1.1 talks about getting started, and I think probably there's some other specific standards within there that this would kind of help fulfill.
The 1.1 would actually be the visual first?
Yes, yes, and the announcement. You can have an announcement that they read even before the class starts, and if you can get it ready a week or two before the class starts, then you actually have people logging in and checking, so that kind of directs them in the right way. Yeah.
Is there any thought of how everything is available on day one versus feeding it to them in good time? We've had that discussion here.
Yes, yes. And two schools of thought, of course. I am of the school that it might be available, but I don't want them to do it yet. I really don't want them to have the whole course in the beginning so that they can finish it all. There is a course schedule, and if you flip through the pages, the course schedule is necessary, and so they can look on there and see exactly when every assignment's going to be due, when every test is, so they can, plan. And that's sometimes the argument for having everything available at once. Oh, let me see what I got to do. So that's there. What I don't like about having everything available at once is that, again, it kind of detracts from that interaction. Because if you have weekly discussions, you want them to participate weekly. And, if you're building that over a course, and, the first couple weeks, maybe they're just not as important topics, or just getting them used to talking. But then you work up into your material. So you want them to be engaged and move through it as if they were going to a regular class. And I think that's the hardest thing for even students taking classes. They look at online, a lot of them, and think, oh, it's easy. Or, oh, it's like a correspondence course. I can just get on there and do everything one day and be done with it. And it's hard to structure your activities so that you don't have that. But yeah, so weekly modules, it depends. Some people will have all of the weeks available when you click on that, and I'm not live in Blackboard, so I can't show you that. Other people, myself included, will have a few weeks, but they can't necessarily do the activities because I use adaptive release in Blackboard. Right. So, they can start, but then they can't see the solution until they've submitted the assignment. Or, they can't start the discussion until after they've read the lecture, that kind of thing, So,
So you can still plan it ahead. You can finish planning everything in August before it starts. You just change the date.
Right.
As far as when it's available, assignment and student
Yeah.
and all that. So on your side, it's not as stressful as to remember every week, I gotta put that freeze on.
Exactly,
Everything
exactly.
is there, you pick the day and date and.
Right. And yeah, ideally you should have it already.
Kind of the middle ground is that's what I think I heard you say, was somewhere you have kind of the whole schedule so they can
Yes.
outline an overview of what
Yes,
you've got.
absolutely.
But they not details of it.
Right,
So,
right.
okay.
Right. In fact, let me go down here, see where this one is. I'm going to skip it.
For the course schedule, I have that in Citadel.
Yes, and that's perfectly fine. That's where it is in this course. It's in the syllabus, yes. There it is. So, and this is just a little piece of it. Right. And it goes week by week and exactly what you need to do. Some people even, and I think this might be a good idea, some people even have another column over here that would say how many minutes they expect it will take to do these things. You know, like watch the video. You know, maybe it's a 5-minute video, so they have 5 minutes. Exactly, exactly.
Now, I noticed something between what I think, how long it's going to take, and when you take how long it takes.
Well, there's that, yeah.
You don't have the same timetable.
But, you know, at least they have an idea. And again, this is laid out. This is in the syllabus, and that's usually a good place to put it. Some people want another menu button that says course schedule, and you know, if you'd rather have it that way, that's fine too. Something that is very clear that this is everything that you're going to do in the course, and this is when everything's due weekly. So, yeah, and is that what you meant, Ruthie, in terms of kind of a middle ground? Okay, yeah, and that's, I think, good, because, I mean, you do want to get into a course and kind of know what's expected of you, but again, you don't want to. Yeah, yeah, I know. I don't doubt it. This introduction, this is a video introduction, okay? And 1.7 is a self-intro, but what I wanted to point out to you also, you know, you can just have a text intro. We do kind of like that you have a little picture at least so they can see who you are. The video one is just another option, but this, where it says transcription, that's there to help satisfy the accessibility, okay? And more we're having to look at how we're meeting all of those accessibility standards in the courses. So there's a transcription either as a doc, a Word doc, or a PDF. And in the documents in Word, the designers are using headings in Word and other ways that it makes it accessible for a screen reader or something like that, okay? So again, kind of meeting a couple standards with that. You're having the intro, the video intro, and it's another piece that's helping you meet the accessibility. Now this gets back to the read this first. We all think it's really important to have a read this first button, place, and you can call it start here, click this, whatever you like. It doesn't have to say read this first. But hopefully they will read it first. And you know, since there's not a button that says assignments, which might be the first thing they go to, right? Hopefully they will read it because it's very detailed, and these are only a few of the pieces of it. And to really give you an idea of what is expected, and you know, there are different ways you can do this. Certainly your own personality, put it in your own words, but you know, can I complete the work when I choose? No, but it has very specific details about when things are due, okay? And if you look at the instructional material standards and some of the learner engagements, you know, when are assignments due, all those are important to meeting some of those specific standards for that, okay? And you would decide all this. See, this is part of the faculty flexibility. When things are due is completely up to you, but the idea is students need to know details. And it's in more than one place. You know, I think that's the other thing that you probably begin to notice. You know, it says here Saturday 11:59 p.m., but if you looked on the course schedule, the day that discussion would due, it would be set, you know, it's due, whatever. So more than one place. And this one even is very detailed about the week is Monday through Sunday. If you don't want your week to be Monday through Sunday, that's fine. In fact, mine are usually Tuesday to Tuesday. But you have to spell it out, okay? And people need to know that. When discussion board posts are due, all those kind of details help meet some of those specific standards. These are also important when we put in instructions about contacting the instructor. The standards say that you need to say when you're going to be available, okay? And how quickly you're going to respond to an email, okay? So you need to think about some of those details and put it in your syllabus, put it in the read this first, so that they can't say, well, I emailed you and you didn't respond. Well, you know, maybe it was a Sunday and I said I don't respond on Sunday, something like that, okay? Again, using the modules. Checklists are also a good idea to keep students on track. And again, all these things are in that read this first. They're also in the syllabus if you had the whole syllabus, okay? So it's kind of in both places. Now, student support services and academic services, disability, all of that is kind of covered in the 7 standards. If you look at some of those, 7.4 is support services, 7.3 academic support, 7.1 technology. So if you have statements about those and then links for how they can get support if they need to, that's important to include. And here, you know, technical problems, computer problems, where do they go for that? So there's that whole section with the 7s that kind of cover some of that, okay? So again, just kind of going through some of the highlights here, including about a Mac, which is interesting because more and more people are using Macs these days. All right, then of course you have your syllabus, and again, it's a separate tab over there. If you don't want it to be a separate tab, you can put it in the read this first, but I think most students like to click on it and find it. But we also have the accessible version, okay? And the difference there would be that the doc, this is just a regular doc. This one is using the headings, you know, not so many bells and whistles, things like that. And then it's also as an accessible PDF. So again, those are important. So they would meet the 8 standards with accessibility, okay? So you need to think about that when you are posting documents. And, you know, I will tell you not all of mine are right now, okay? That's something we're kind of working towards. But it's something we need to think about. So that's why we're working on this. Now, anything that's posted as a document, make it accessible. And those would be down in the 8 standards, okay? And then, of course, the learning outcomes, the Quality Matters still calls them objectives. We call them outcomes. But they're all in the 2s. So I think it's important to decide if they're measurable and also if they're reasonable for the content of the course, okay? So if you look at the 2s, several of those are the 3-point ones, meaning they're absolutely essential. Then the others are what you really want to have. And on the CT website, we have resources for developing learning outcomes, developing syllabuses. So if you need tools, there's a lot there on the website that you can look towards and use. I mean, this is nothing new, okay? You know, everybody who teaches does syllabuses. So this is just matching what you already do to the standards that they're saying are important, okay? So I certainly don't want you to feel like you have to start from scratch, okay? Here's another part on communications. Again, talking about how to post in the discussion board, okay? Making it real detailed and clear. What's the title of your post? Do you need help? Things like that. And there's certain types. This is discussion board. These are personal questions. So again, I think you get the idea that you need to be detailed, okay? And this is also important. You want professional communication. Text messaging is not appropriate. And let me see, where is it? The netiquette one, talking about how to be appropriate. Yeah, 1.3, okay? So you need statements in here talking about what you expect for students in how they communicate with you and how they communicate with each other, especially if you're doing discussion boards. So that's a new thing, etiquette. So make sure you tell them, professional, no text messaging. And there's another statement in here, let me see if it's down here, that says you have to be respectful of your peers as well. And of course you want your academic honesty policy and all that. Okay, so we're almost out of time. I just want to show you a little bit on these modules, the idea here. So here's one. Again, the idea is to label them clearly with the date. So this is the only thing that's kind of a pain when you have to use your course again the next semester. You do need to change those days, right? Don't just say week 1. Why? Because you know what my week 1 is might not be the same as somebody else's, okay? And we're not trying to prescribe any of that. Just let them know what it is. So, you have to change that, but that's not too bad. The other thing is, and I think when you look at the standards for navigation and stuff, you don't want to go too deep. Does everybody know what I mean in the deep? You don't want like folder. You kind of want to make it easier to navigate, which means a lot of your work is either 1 folder or 2 folders deep, okay? Which is what this would be. You click on week 2, and then when week 2 opens, you pretty much see everything for week 2, okay? You'll see that you have a discussion group, and when you click on that link, it'll take you to the discussion board. So they don't need to go hunting and all that kind of stuff. Again, you have your instructions, okay, and what they're supposed to do, and you have, there's a rubric for that somewhere. It's in one of your screenshots. I forget where I put it, but there's a rubric for the discussion. So it's really important to let students know what you expect, even in a discussion, okay? And that would be part of the assessment, telling them how you're going to assess their discussion. And it would also be in matching your objectives to your activities, okay? And then if you were this is still the same week, okay? You'd have all these different activities. Yes, still week 2. And this isn't even all. There was a lot in week 2. I just want to... there's something to read, it tells you where that is. There's a lecture video. And we can talk a lot about how to lecture. I just wanted to mention that it's a good idea to keep the lectures between 10 and 15 minutes at the most. And we're not talking about like capturing yourself in front of a classroom, okay? A whole nother session, but anyway. They do have the time, which is nice, okay? Because if you're a student and you're looking at, what do I have to do, and you're trying to help them plan their time and get engaged, then they can look and see if they have time to watch it, okay? Then there's some video here, things to do. And also notice, again, for this accessibility, the transcription of the video. Not something that's always provided, but it is important for accessibility. Okay, and then there's some YouTube videos, things like that. So all this would be within that weekly module, and there's the checklist for it. Oh, here's the discussion board rubric. Okay, so when you go to the discussion board, then there's a rubric to tell you how to participate in that. Okay, so again, the reason I printed some of these things was because I wanted you to start just thinking about structuring your course and how things you already do match up with these standards. Okay, and wow, we're already out of time, so that was quick. I hope it's quick for you. It's quick for me. Anyway, I'm going to stop there in case anybody has to leave. If you have questions, we can hang around for a few minutes. But again, I appreciate it. I know this is just a real overview, and if you have more questions, please ask me. I put my email on top of that thing, and our designers are obviously really familiar with all of this as well, because they've been working with it and helping to build these courses. So, we really would welcome your questions and your feedback, okay? And before you leave, yes, do the evaluation and take your goldenrod, because we still have some more events before the end of the year. So, yes, Yes, the new one. Yes.
I just wanted to check if we,
Please.
if as a subscriber to Quality Matters, can we make copies of it?
I would think so, yes. Yes, because we are subscribers, and we just, was it Wednesday? Lacey Ford said we're going to renew our subscription, so, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes, he did at that meeting. He said we're going to renew it, yes.
Maybe it's no question, but
No such thing.
what when you say make the document accessible? I don't know.
We've got training coming up December 6th. And,
That's good to know, actually, yeah.
well, we just are finalizing. it.
Okay.
And I'll be sending that out to you all.
Good, 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 good.
But it's actually going to be a assistive technology, accessibility community, something to stabilize things in all states.
Thank you.
Has to have accessible experience. And so, with Quality Matters, we have one presentation.
Really?
Word document, PDF, accessible.
That's good.
And so they're going to offer it throughout the state, so anybody can sign up for it. What we're going to do is we're going to have at least one room, and we're going to try to figure out interest and try to do it in more places if they want to, or if they need to go on campus. So groups of us will be watching the webinar together and talking about it. And there are three activities that we do together, so they don't have to pick a year by themselves.
Right.
Can we put that on the email campuses?
Yes, it'll be anywhere, any place you want to. Yes, because I think there are 100.
It means that, I'm sorry, a screen reader can read it, and, for Word documents, that's not too bad. Text-to-speech software.
Long text, if you know how when you have the headings, for instance, on a long document, a lot of people just go, oh, let me make this 20 point and blue and something like that. Well, that doesn't help us really, but if you use H1 or heading 1.
In the main menu, up top.
The reader, the person who's reading the reader can say, just read the heading. So they know that if you read through that whole document, you can do that whole document to get to the place that they want to do. That kind of thing.
So the product may even look the same.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But we should all be saying everything that
Right,
way.
right.
Because it was probably
So that'd be like a template.
well, you would, yes. you
Yes,
do it
kind
yourself.
of, right,
But the other thing
right.
is one of our favorite examples and buttons and things like that.
Right.
Picture one, picture two. Well, if you usually reading picture one, that's totally different.
Right, right.
So you have to go fill in.
So you
Picture
can
out
all
or
that,
like-
yeah, you can say, have you ever noticed when you add a picture to a lot of programs now, it will ask you?
Yes,
I look at
yes.
that picture.
So this is headings in Word up here. And so instead of just, typing something, if you use one of these, then the screen reader would know that that's a heading. Then pictures, like you insert a picture, and
Almost all the websites, Microsoft is probably all the apps.
probably.
Through one document of accessible, would you then still have to include it as a PDF, or is it accessible for everyone?
You would not have to.
People, I think, like PDF is that if there's any formatting of, it might be, if the text is bigger or something, like that they want to look at something like what I'm using is PDF. Well, yeah, that's becoming more and more.
Well,
But
yeah.
in order to make it